Fresh out of medical school, young Finley, an anthropomorphic pigeon, decides to start his professional training by moving to the small town of Porcupine, where St. Ursula Hospital is located. As an aspiring medical professional, he hopes to learn from the experienced practitioners at this historic facility. However, just a few days into his internship, Finley becomes involved in a minor incident with unclear implications, which leaves him confined to bed for a few days. Undeterred, Finley quickly resumes his work, gradually getting to know the townspeople and the rest of the healthcare staff. To his dismay, he discovers also that despite the idyllic atmosphere, Porcupine is not the small paradise it may appear to be from the outside. The plot of Fall of Porcupine, which requires immersing oneself in the slow and relaxed atmospheres of the game to be appreciated, is primarily composed of the stories of its inhabitants, each of whom represents a small puzzle piece. The characters are almost all well written and characterized, with only a few minor exceptions that do not compromise the overall experience. Generally, the story is told in a light-hearted manner, but since it revolves around doctors, it is natural to encounter more serious topics. These topics are handled delicately without going overboard. Beneath the surface, there's also an overarching plot that involves the hospital itself, and perhaps this is the least convincing part, with some abrupt dramatic turns as the finale approaches. Fall of Porcupine is primarily a narrative adventure. Throughout his days, marked by hospital shifts, Finley will have the opportunity to engage in conversations with both the townspeople and his colleagues in a very natural way. We are rarely forced to talk to anyone, but it will be up to us to decide whether to deepen our relationships with the entire cast or only a portion of the game's characters. The control of Finley is direct, and being a pigeon, he is capable of both jumping and gliding. However, these abilities are mostly useless except for a single section of the game. During work shifts, we will naturally interact with patients, and this is where puzzles and mini-games come into play. However, this aspect of the experience is likely the least successful, as they quickly become repetitive and sometimes unnecessarily convoluted. Failing them does not change the plot, but rather affects the score given by our supervisor, which leads to small changes in the dialogue. One rather bothersome feature is that the game only supports autosave, and checkpoints are often too far apart. There is a real risk of having to repeat the aforementioned minigames if we need to interrupt the game. However, the game's duration is around 7 hours. Crafted in a delightful 2D style, Fall of Porcupine's storyline is characterized by evocative scenes with soft colors, where characters move in a style reminiscent of an illustrated book. They are well drawn and characterized, adding to the game's charm. The game's dialogues are solely text-based, without any voice acting. The task of bringing the dialogues to life falls entirely on the music, which, unfortunately, lacks inspiration. In fact, the music often goes unnoticed, leaving little to no impact on the overall experience. As long as you immerse yourself in its slow-paced atmosphere, Fall of Porcupine is a pleasant and well-written narrative adventure, with the exception of a rushed and abrupt ending. The gameplay, however, would have benefited from more variety in the minigames, as they quickly become a nuisance rather than an enjoyable experience.